Hello, time for another book club with me. So, I've just finished reading Herman Hesse's Narcissus and Goldmund. I couldn't find many reviews on YouTube for this, which is really quite surprising. One of my friends recommended this book. I did find some written reviews, but there's not a lot of... it's mainly just covering the plot lines, so... There are going to be spoilers in this video, so do I recommend reading it? Yes. So go and do that, and then if you've read it already, okay, let's go into what I thought about it. So I thought it was a very good book. I loved it. I loved the middle the most, which is weird because in most books people say there's a strong start and a strong finish, but the middle, like when I'm writing my book, the middle is like the sagging middle. I've heard writers call it the sagging middle. And so the main kind of criticism is that writers cannot hold a book through the middle. It's like interesting start, sagging middle, and then interesting finish. But this, personally, I thought was the complete opposite. I thought the beginning, actually, it took a long time to get into. There's this thing about the chestnut tree. It goes on for a page about the tree and the cloister and these boys that run around the tree, and it doesn't introduce the main character for a couple pages, maybe 3 pages. No, this is Narcissus. It introduces him, I think, on the 3rd page. So come on, we got all of this. Don't need it. Get rid of it. So it was a bit of a weak start. However, when we come later on to when Goldmund returns, because he goes off wandering and having all of his adventures, and then he comes back and he returns, and the first thing he sees is this tree. So I understood actually why Herman Hesse did that, because he give it a lot of narrative weight for that moment later on when Goldmund returns. Oh, there's the tree. Oh, remember the tree? Whoa. So I understood, but actually I felt that it just was quite a weak beginning, which, if it is a weak beginning, it took me a long time to get into it, and then it took me until about chapter 2 to actually go, oh, this is a good book, because initially I thought it wasn't. So yeah, and then the ending, I've just finished it today. In the ending, it does felt like I was ready for it to finish earlier than it did. I was ready for it to finish on page like 290, and then it went on for another 20 pages. Okay, I get it. Big spoiler alert, he dies. This is why you should read the book before watching my videos. So, but I was ready for him to die at the end. Like, okay, come on, I'm probably too insensitive, but okay, I get it, The story's over. I'm ready for the story to move on. So yeah, could have had a faster ending. Now, the middle. Just phenomenal. Some of this stuff blew my mind. I had to go down to a pub with my mate and discuss it. I was getting it out and showing him a few quotes that I liked. So I'll read some quotes out that I liked. The middle, I love the plot line, like he was supposed to be this monk, and then he escaped from this cloister because he discovered about his mother, and so then he went on and he discovered like the joys of women first, and seduction, and so he goes through all of these seductions with these women, and he discovers like what a pleasure it is to love, what a pleasure it is to have a woman, and then he discovers, I think he meets somebody called Victor, and then Victor is a thief, but he discovers that, I like this guy's an interesting guy, and then the guy kind of turns around and tries to steal his stuff, and he ends up killing him. So then I killed him, man, oh my god, I've got to deal with killing a man? How do I process that? So we follow him through how he processed his, that he's a murderer. So we see him develop, we see him grow, we see him get stronger, we see him build personality. Then he discovers, well, wait a minute, I'm still not happy, there's something missing. Where is the joy? And he discovers this beautiful sculpture, this art. He can see the pain and the pleasure on the face of it. It's like, I want to be able to express that. So he finds the master artist. And he creates this beautiful sculpture, and then he leaves again. He goes wandering, and then the plague happens. And he has to deal with the plague, and he meets this guy called Robert, who's quite clingy and clings onto him. And he's with this other girl, and they live together for a while through the plague. And then that girl unfortunately dies, so again he has to deal with that death. Then he goes back to find the master, and the master has died of the plague, and the daughter of the master, who he never slept with but had feelings for. I mean, if you've read it, you know this, but so it's a fantastic story, the plot line, and as we follow it through, there's also that girl called Agnes, who he sneaks into the castle to be with her, but she's actually the count's wife, I think, and then he sleeps with her. So, and then he's going to get arrested, and then he's kind of ends up like, oh, now they're going to hang him because of his crimes, because they thought he was a thief, but they kind of knew that he was playing around with the wife of this count. So the things that he goes through, that plot in the middle, just absolutely phenomenal. And we see really the development of a man, an artist, a womanizer, and a philosopher, somebody who's interested in philosophy, because he's always trying to find his place. He's always trying to find what he wants to do, which is actually, it turns out that he cannot focus. He just is a lover of life, which is fantastic. I love it, and I love the character. And it's a very well written plot. So to quote some of the lines because I said to my friend, look, Herman Hesse, how old was he when he wrote this book? It turns out, I think my mate ended up saying he was 53. And it's obvious that he's a very mature author because of the way he's able to express some amazing ideas. Like the girl Rebecca, as she spoke, Goldmund saw glowing in her eyes, behind the hatred, something that touched him and shamed him and went deep to his heart. He saw death in her eyes, not the compulsion to die, but the wish to die, the wish to be allowed to die. I've met definitely some girls like that, who it's just impossible to love because there's only death in their eyes. And for the author to express that, which is something that I've experienced too, and go, wow, he's able to express that. It's a truth. It's a life truth. And Goldmund had to move on because he realised that there's nothing he can do here. There's only death in her eyes. So he's got to move on. Another one. Well, I'm just going to flip to the pages that I bookmarked. Oh, I didn't like this bit where he slept with Agnes, because I feel that some of the time he gets these women too easily. Like, he just, hi, and they want to fuck him. So it's kind of like, well, he hasn't really shown any personality at all. So I feel like we're living in the author's fantasy world a bit there, because it's a bit unbelievable. I'm going to go on for a bit longer than 10 minutes, because these are good quotes. So, I love this bit. It was shameless how life made fun of one. It was a joke, a cause for weeping. You know, it says, either one lived and let one's senses play, drank full at the primitive mother's breast, which brought great bliss, but was no protection against death. Then one lived like a mushroom in the forest, colourful today and rotten tomorrow. Or else one put up a defence, imprisoned oneself for work, and tried to build a monument to the fleeting passage of life. Then one renounced life, was nothing but a tool, one enlisted in the service of that which endured, but one dried up in the process and lost one's freedom, scope, lust for life. That's what had happened to Master Nicholas. Life made sense only if one achieved both. Only if it was not split by this brittle alternative. And again, we have a really wonderful idea expressed here, because it's the idea of you can live your life to your fullest and live in your senses, but then also, you know, Goldmund come back to his workshop and produced art. It's the same as being a writer. You want to go out there and live, but also you've got to come back to your work. And there's that sacrifice, that you're sacrificing part of your life in order to come back and write. So it's beautifully expressed, and I love it when an author can take that idea and express it, because it's something that I feel anyway, but haven't got the ability to express. So knowing that somebody else felt that way and could express it, that really shows just the talent of a writer and the maturity of an author to be able to express that. Couple more things here. The way that their relationship evolves. Let me pause. So there's a quote here that I just found really enlightening. First of all, here it is. Still they both try, the thinker as well as the artist, each in his way. So they try to express themselves. They cannot and may not do otherwise. Because when a man tries to realize himself through the gifts with which nature has endowed him, he does the best and only meaningful thing that he can do. That's why in former days I often said to you, don't try to imitate the thinker or the ascetic man, but be yourself. Try to realize yourself. And that's really, really great. You know, thinking the other day that we all just be yourself. You know, that's what life is. The process of life is about finding out who you are truly in God, in the universe. Because you're totally unique. You're not like anybody else. And so when we grow up, we try to imitate other people that we like. Oh, I like that person, I'll try to imitate them. We search for role models. Oh, I like that person, I'll try to imitate them. But in reality, there's no way to imitate another person, because you're not them. You don't have that natural DNA code. And that idea is really poetically expressed here. Don't try to imitate the thinker or the ascetic man, but be yourself. Try to realize yourself. And then it goes on. It's a philosophical concept. I can't express it in any other way. For us disciples of Aristotle and St. Thomas, it is the highest of all concepts, perfect being. God is perfect being. Everything else that exists is only half, only a part, is becoming, is mixed, is made up of potentialities. But God is not mixed. He is one. He has no potentialities, but is the total, the complete reality. Whereas we are transitory. We are becoming, we are potentials. There is no perfection for us, no complete being. But wherever we go, from potential to deed, from possibility to realization, we participate in true being, become by a degree more similar to the perfect and divine. That is what it means to realize oneself. Just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. So I think that Herman Hesse was a very enlightened man, a very, very mature author. I am going to finish there because that's 15 minutes. I normally do 10, but there are a lot of insightful thoughts, definitely enlightening thoughts inside this book. And I really enjoyed the story. Normally I don't try to look for insightful things inside books, because if we talk about spiritual materialism, the idea is not to try and grasp everything, because even if you try to grasp ideas, soon later in the life, the idea is not going to suit you and you have to let that idea go. So change is always happening, even with your thought processes. But there are a lot of enlightening things that are beautifully expressed, and I think that's what I like, more than me trying to grasp the idea and collect the idea. I'm just marveling at the way that he expresses these ideas so beautifully within such a well-constructed plot. It's a very, very good book. As for writing style, it's not particularly in my style. It's much more flowery than I would write. But I can admire the style, and if you like something very poetic, and even if you don't like something very poetic, yeah, give it a go. Oh well, you've already read it, so otherwise I've told you everything. Well, anyway, see you later.